Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the podcast that teaches you how to be a ridiculously good virtual assistant. Today I'm going to share the truth about billing your VA clients by the hour. I'll tell you why all VAs should be doing this, no matter what their invoice looks like at the end of each month. I don't love this quote that I found for today, but it does actually hit on many of the points that I'll discuss today. So here we are. From the law firm's perspective, billing by the hour has a certain appeal. It shifts risk from the firm to the client in case the work takes longer than expected. But from a client's perspective, it doesn't work so well. It gives lawyers an incentive to overstaff and to over-research cases. And that is by Robert Posen. Billing by the hour as a virtual assistant is not like billing by the hour as a lawyer, but it's very similar. Service-based businesses and basically taking time off of a retainer. And it is a very interesting topic. So let's go. Pricing matters. As a business owner, you can choose to bill your VA clients any way you want. No one gets to decide how much you charge, how you work, or really anything else about your business. It's totally your choice, and the only thing you really need to do is to make sure that whatever you're doing is consistent and profitable. You are, after all, in business, and without running a profit, you're not going to be able to stay that way. And the money that you earn to do your work for clients is the thing that keeps your business running. It's your revenue. So today I want to talk to you about charging your clients hourly, the good, the bad, and what you need to consider if this is a route that you want to go. Why would you choose to bill your clients hourly? It can seem clearer. Work done equals time paid, right? There really isn't a simpler way to charge for your time, especially when you're starting out and when you operate a service business like a VA business. Time is money. But you can also shoot yourself in the foot when you're charging hourly because of a number of reasons. For one thing, you can miss the time that you did some work that should have been billed. If I had $1 for every time a VA told me they're working hard all day long, but they're only billing their clients 4 or 5 hours a day, I would probably be pretty wealthy. They can't figure out where their time is going. It's very, very common issue. You think that you're tracking every last minute, but you aren't. You forget to write something down, or you get distracted and you're not sure where your time went, or you work at a super fast pace because you're busy and you have a lot of things to get done. The money that you're earning is lower than the work you've actually done for the client. And when you work faster, you actually make less money. If you're billing by the hour and you do something really quickly, then you are not making as much money as maybe you could be. Not to say that you should be taking your sweet time doing whatever tasks your clients need, but you do have to consider your work pace and keeping at a regular one in order to ensure that you're not losing money. And you're not charging your client too much either. Aside from work pace, the more you do something, naturally, the better you're going to get at it, right? Practice makes perfect. And that also means money coming out of your pocket, even though the client gets the work done. And in terms of forgetting to record something, there are lots of ways that you can track your time, lots of tools you can use to do that. But to me, you're not a robot and you're not an employee. So it really is kind of a backward way of running your business. The bottom line is that it really doesn't matter what the client wants. It's your business and you are the one who needs to get yourself, your policies, your terms, all of those things sorted out, and then you relay that information to your clients when you start working together. The way I prefer to teach VAs like you is to bill your clients by task, which still uses your billable rate and the clock on the wall, just not while you are doing the work for the client. I'm going to repeat that because I do believe that you need to charge your clients by the hour, just not while you're doing the work for them. Okay? Billing by task is about setting a flat rate per task or service that you offer for your clients. It's based on the time it takes to get that task done, but it doesn't involve counting the hours as you do it and then tallying them up and billing the client at the end. But it's essentially the same thing. And that's why I say every VA should be billing their client by the hour, but they shouldn't be providing them a detailed bill based on work time. They should be doing it based on task time. Okay? Give it that a minute to sink in. You take your billable rate So, whatever you charge hourly is your billable rate and the estimated time to complete any task. For instance, a newsletter, if you're doing a newsletter for a client, that might take you 90 minutes. If your billable rate is $40 per hour, that means your newsletter will cost the client $60 each time you do it, and that's what you bill your client. 4 newsletters a month, and you bill your client $240. No surprises on either end, right? And that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you need to do for your client in the month. Maybe it is, who knows? But if that's one of the tasks, then that's the price for that service. That's the price for that task. You definitely need to know how long things take you to do in order to create task pricing like this. So you have to do it and you have to practice and you have to make sure that your estimated time is right. You add in times for things not to go properly. Sometimes when we are creating a task, creating the time that it takes to get a task done, we are zipping through things. And so you need to consider that work pace. You need to consider that sometimes, internet might be slower or you may have a little more back and forth with a client. And so you need to allow for those things so that you are actually charging the right regular billable rate for that task. And then you set that time, you have to make sure that it's right. You have to strive to get that task done within the estimated time. I used to charge my clients 1 hour for a newsletter. And so they knew at the time my rate was $50 an hour. So it cost them $50 to get a newsletter done. But they needed to provide the pieces of the newsletter to me in a certain format so that it could expedite the way that I did things. And then I needed to make sure, sorry, that I got things done in that hour. If it took me longer than the hour, then I was eating into my own profits. But the client knew that that was the estimate. Now, yours might take 90, yours might take 2 hours, whatever it is. The numbers are irrelevant. The billable time and the billable rate are the two things that you need to figure out in order to set that task rate. When you work hourly, you're keeping track of how much time you work. But sometimes that can be bad because you take too long to do something. Think about the quote from today, right? How you over research or overstaff. You're taking more time to do things because you're just working by the hour. You're not setting deadlines or boxes of time, those start and stop times I always tell you about. And you're just sort of ticking away time. One time I had a virtual assistant who was helping me with a bunch of things. This was a project that I had given her, and we set up a 10-hour project rate. And in my mind, I knew a lot of the things that I needed to get done. And of course, because I have worked as a VA and I know how long things should take, I had that in my mind that this week we could do this entire project in 10 hours. And I asked her to do some research for me, and she did some research for me. And she came back and told me that she was already at 6 hours of research. And we hadn't done anything yet. She hadn't collected the information. She hadn't contacted anybody, anything like that. And I was floored because I knew that I would have done maybe 2 hours worth of research and I would have stopped at that and I would have consulted the client and said, the client, me, and said, what do you want me to do next? Because this is a portion of our budget. Our budget is 10 hours and we want to make sure that we're kind of getting through the remaining parts of the project. And this VA just didn't do that. And of course I didn't relay it, but a lot of clients won't. They won't know how to do that type of thing. So you want to make sure that you are using their budget properly or their budget well so that you can continue working with them. I would have done a lot more work with this virtual assistant if we weren't so far off on how to manage my time. Charging by the hour can be accurate, but as I mentioned to you earlier, you can also miss time. And also, clients might end up nickel and diming you if you provide them with a detailed billing at the end of the month. Task timing is a lot easier. They know they did 4 newsletters, so they know that their bill is going to contain that, but not the every single minute that you worked, right? If you're billing by the hour, clients will often request to get detailed billing because they want to know how they're spending their money. And they need to treat you as the professional and pay you accordingly. It does make it easier to add on new tasks and services when you're charging hourly, just flat, but you can also do that with task billing. You can just make an adjustment to the invoice and you can move along. Aside from your clients asking for your detailed records, you need to have them for yourself because you still need to ensure that you're billing them the right amount every month, that you're not taking more time to do things, but you don't have to do it quite as stringently as you do it whenever you're billing by the hour. Billing by the minute simply doesn't work. It's impossible to account for every second of time you're doing working for a client. And it really makes me sad when I hear about VAs who are charging clients by the minute. Even if you're using a time tracking software, just nothing's that accurate. And again, you're not a robot, you're not a machine. If you are charging by the hour and that's the way you want to do it, again, I've told you, you can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you what I consider to be a better way based on the same model. If you are charging by the hour, bill by an increment of at least 10 or 15 minutes per task. And at least that way, you know that you are not, you can work at a proper pace. You can do things well. You don't have to rush from job to job to job and effectively lose the time. And you also want to make sure that you're not overcharging your clients. As just as an added note, if I hear a VA say anything I do costs the client an hour, that to me is just ripping them off. And there are different tasks that we can do that might fit into that, but not really my kind of thing. It just makes more sense to me to track the tasks that you actually do for them and assign the time it takes you to do them, or that it will take you to do. And that's why I teach it that way. Some things are black and white, like the newsletter, black and white, like the newsletter, and some things are not. You do need to look at tasks that are open-ended, like checking email. Checking email is obviously a very common service for virtual assistants, and I think you can waste a lot of unnecessary time doing it if you don't manage it properly. It's not it doesn't go the way a lot of VAs I hear describing it. And so I like to teach a better way. How do I teach you to manage somebody's email? It's very easy. You check on it a set number of times a day, once, twice, five, whatever it is, and then you charge the client a set amount of time each day for each check. If there's a lot of stuff that needs doing on each check, then obviously you're going to bill them more time than if there isn't anything to respond to or file or whatever you're doing. But the point is, every check is what you're going to bill the client for. I'll describe that in just a minute. So multiply the set time, if it's 15 minutes or whatever it is, times the number of times you're going to check it every day, times two, and then multiply that times the number of business days in a month, which is usually 22. I'll repeat that. Multiply the set time for checking the email for the checks times the number of checks a day, and then multiply that by 22 to get the number of business days in an average month. That's going to be your fee for managing the client's email for the month. And yes, sometimes you're going to do more work at a check than other times. Maybe you log in sometimes and there's nothing to do, but then the next time you do, but you're charging them to do that service, and it should all work out over the course of the month. If not, then you just adjust the fee up or down when you have a better idea of how much time you're actually using to do that task. So for instance, if there's rarely anything to do when you check, if you're checking 5 times a day and 3 times a day there's stuff to do and typically 2 there aren't, maybe you reduce the number of times that you're actually doing the checking, adjusting the client's bill down. Alternately, if you're spending more time, if you think it's going to take you 15 minutes every time you log into the client's account and it's taking you consistently 20 or 30, then maybe you want to increase the billable time per check. For most of my clients who were 6 and 7 figure business coaches, even when they were very busy, I found that easily 15 to 30 minutes a day was more than enough to handle all of their email. It was usually 15, to be honest, even with my busiest people. And checking twice a day, that's 11 hours a month, right? And it's usually more than enough to keep you on top of everything. So you bill them 11 hours in their monthly bill. 11 hours of that is allotted to email management. And I think you'll find that that's an awful lot of time for you to work at a decent pace, but still be checking things and responding to them appropriately as often as the client is requesting. If you want to book in 20 minutes instead of 15, that's 15 hours a month. And that's totally fine too. There's nothing wrong with taking 20 minutes to check on email. But if the client looks into their email and sees that there are not that many things that are being responded to, their inbox isn't as busy as they thought it was, then that's when they're going to question that. So you want to make sure, again, making sure that you are being honest with the client, but still getting paid for the service of actually logging in and checking things. Nobody needs their email checked every hour unless they're in the middle of a launch, in which case that's different, right? A launch rate is different because you will bill them straight hours of time, not check-ins. They're looking for sales. If people are having customer service issues, trying to sign up or asking questions or whatever, that's a totally different service. But a daily email check is really is a simple process. And all you have to do is assign that check time to it based on how much time it takes you and what you have to do consistently. And it's an average. And then if you don't use the time today, or if you don't use the time this morning, maybe you'll use it this afternoon. And you want to make sure that you're just kind of rolling with it. But it gives the client the peace of mind that you're on top of things. So, you also need to keep track of your time on your end, like I have said earlier too, to make sure that your estimated time is accurate. But you remove the minute counting and the potential detailed billing issues with the client. You tell the client you're going to bill them 15 hours per month to take care of their email, and that's it. That is usually just all they want anyway, right? Trust is always an issue with virtual work. Well, a lot of the times it is, and not just for virtual assistants. Are you working? How long does things take? Did it really take you that long to do something? And doing things this way, by being able to quote them a daily rate, removes all that extra stuff that might get in the way of just doing the work for that set rate. When you start out, hourly billing is usually easiest, but as soon as you know how long things will take, it's really good idea to shift to this task pricing. But you can work into your business so easily by starting every client out monthly and then say 3 months later transitioning them to a set fee for things, and let them know, I'm going to get to know you, I get to know your business, and we'll figure out things. Maybe you'll find ways to, make things more efficient and that type of thing. And you outline that for them at the start. That can be a really good sort of thing to offer. It can set you apart from other VAs as well. And you won't have to worry about, not getting their flat rate or their task billing quite right from the start, because of course, all our clients are as different as all of our VAs, right? It's just simply more efficient and easier for everybody to charge by the task. The other thing with charging hourly is that you often do the work before you get paid. And sometimes that means that you can get burned by a non paying client, which obviously is never what we want. It's not ideal at all. So, being able to quote them rates based on the tasks that you're going to do, it helps you to get paid up front and then do the work. It can be a difficult transition for some clients and VAs, but it's very common to prepay for everything that you get these days. And so I think it's a really good model for everybody. If you bill afterward, you can also surprise your client with a really high bill at the end of the month. Who's done that before? Hello, me, I have. And it's not nice, it's not comfortable. Some VAs are going to keep doing work and tasks and just keep racking up the time. I see that all the time, and I have done that. And so I know that that's not the way to do things. You want to make sure that your client is not overwhelmed at the end of the month and maybe can't afford you, or maybe feels, slighted because you didn't really keep them informed. Getting back to today's quote again, you don't need to overdo it just because you're charging by the hour. If you're billing by the hour, you want to make sure that you keep your client's budget in mind. Even if you've estimated them, for 20 hours a month, and they just keep sending you things, and at 2 weeks you're already at the 20-hour limit, you're not managing their budget well. You've quoted them 20 hours. They might need more work, but it's up to them to decide when that work gets done. And so you want to make sure that you're always working with their budget. You keep them up to date every week on how much time you have used out of their budget. And it's not really up to you to say, we're at 5 hours for the week, we're cutting you off. It's the client's decision, but you do want to keep them informed. Surprises are just bad business and really just not recommended, because it just because a client sends you work to do doesn't mean that they're approving you to spend as much money of their money as you need to or as you want to. So keeping things in check is really the most important thing. It is their money after all. And yes, you're doing the work, but they get to agree on how to spend their money. And keeping those lines of communication open is really, really important. Another reason to, prepay and do the task pricing for sure. This is a much more common issue than it should be with VAs. But you are definitely responsible to be professional and not just be a task taker. Think about you, right? If we're not quite there, if you're not quite sure in terms of how to describe this to your clients, imagine for yourself that you're expecting to pay a certain amount of money for something. And then when the bill comes, it's for way more than you expected. And you had no notice. Nobody told you that it was going to be, a lot more money. So how do you feel about that? You have to think about that, and you have to conduct your VA business accordingly. You are spending the client's money. It's super, super important to manage it well. Even if they have all kinds of work to get done, it's just a simple approval. Another thing about hourly billing is it is more difficult to raise your rates. Letting your client do the math is one of the ways that you can get devalued or treated as less than the expert that you are. If you tell somebody that your billable rate is $40 an hour or your hourly rate, whatever you want to call it, I prefer to call it a billable rate, as you see, because I think that's what it's all about. It's not hourly, it's not based on time, it's what you're billing your client. So if your billable rate is $40 an hour and you let them do the math in the head based on how long they think something should take or how long it's been taking them, and they can go, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. You could potentially lose the client before you even sign them. And if you tell them your billable rate is going up by X dollars per hour, they are going to do that math all over again. So it definitely makes more sense with billable rates to be able, task rates to be able to increase your rates as you need to. You can charge whatever you want for them, and your clients need to know how much it's going to cost them to work with you. I always say that, right? Your client wants to know two things: what you can do for them and how much it's going to cost them. And your job is to tell them that. You don't need to detail out how much a newsletter is. You need to know that information for yourself. You need to know that how much you're charging for the email, but you don't need to relay that to the client. You can give the client the big number at the end and say, there's 15 hours that's going to be allotted to email management. There is, 4 newsletters involved. You don't need to give them all the skinny. You need to figure it out for yourself, but that is the information that you're using to run your business. And the client just needs the forward facing. What are you going to do? How much is it going to cost them? So I'm going to leave it here for today. I know this is a lot, but you get the idea, right? Ask about their budget and work within it. Figure out those task rates and those estimated times. Use those to quote your clients and use them to bill your clients. You get to make all of the decisions. How are you going to bill? What does it look like? How can you ensure that you're going to get paid properly and on time? Hint, hint, prepay. How can you ensure that your client doesn't get surprised and pays the right amount of work when they get done? Or for the work that they get done, pardon me. How can you make it easy to fix or adjust your rates regularly if the client's workload changes? And in short, how can you make things easier for everyone? Money is a tough topic a lot of the times, but in a service business, it's really, really necessary to talk about it because time is money. And this is exactly what I help VAs do. As a VA coach and trainer, I help you set yourself up for success, helping you fix whatever is going wrong in your business, like maybe your rates. When we work together, either privately or in a group, we talk specifically about your business and you. There's no one-stop solution for everybody whenever it comes to service businesses like VA businesses. We are all different. I will help you get clarity around your issues and cheer you on as you walk through the steps to fix them. I've helped hundreds of VAs through their challenges and got them on their way to growing their business to the lifestyle that they dream of, and I would love to do the same thing for you. You can, of course, work with me privately, or you can join the Virtual Circle, my mastermind group for virtual assistants. You can check it out at yourvamentor.tvc, as in the virtual circle. I bet it's exactly what you need to start running the VA business you dreamed of. Reach out to me if you are interested. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more great resources for your VA business, visit my website at yourvamentor.com. I'll see you back here next time.